All right, so I'm gonna try to get this to you quickly. I watched one of the crazier documentaries that I've ever listened to slash watched last night. I say listen slash watch because I don't watch them all the time. I listen to them in the background because I'm busy, I'm working. So as I was listening to this documentary, it was called Tell Them You Love Me, which means obviously somebody was gonna be forced to be told and do something. Well, as you get to know the very beginning, they spent a lot of time at the beginning of this documentary explaining who the individual was. The main protagonist of this whole documentary was this guy named Derek, Damon, D-Man, whatever you wanted to call him. He suffered from cerebral palsy, or a litany of catastrophic failures of the body. A lot of mutated things that didn't go well for him to become a full, natural, able-bodied human. So he's a tad bit retarded. Excuse my language, but he's a lot of it. That's what you basically find out later. He's actually a lot of it, and that is the part that hurts the most, because it feels like we'll get to where the moral, middle ground is later. So obviously these individuals had to learn at some point in time. So his family, his mom had already been doing the best she could to take care of him and his older brother, who's able-bodied, just looking out for his brother, and they want what's best for him. So they get this instructor, and she comes along, and she's going to teach him how to communicate. She's going to basically do the whole Helen Keller, slap you upside the head, I want to get you right type of program for this individual, because he's nonverbal. He can't communicate. Now, he can hear people, and he can kind of do the Stevie Wonder where he's like moving his head around when he acknowledges things. But overall, nobody's looking at this person as a functional adult or functioning adult that actually can make his own decisions and do it coherently or do it responsibly. So obviously these settings are very intimate. She spent a lot of time with D-Man, and they got close. A lot of hand-on-hand action when it came to pointing and saying exactly what was, he was trying to communicate. And she basically got him to the point where he could read in her mind, so to speak. But a lot of times with these teachers, what they feel like which has been outlawed in some other states, is that they feel like this is kind of a predatory practice, where a lot of these individuals end up kind of manipulating their own mind into believing what they're actually telling them is the truth. Because there's actually no part in this story where I feel like this woman was actually lying about what she was saying. I think she truly believes everything that she said. Now, her family, her mother, and the brother who was taking care of them, they obviously started sensing some things were getting weird over time. Because before they actually had this sit-down meeting between her, D-Man, and the family, there was this evening where she was messaging him in class, and he got to the point apparently where he was typing back and doing the whole Stephen Hawking and communicating back to her. Well, apparently she had expressed her feelings towards him. Yes, she's starting to develop feelings. A very normal, everyday woman. I believe I might have said, don't know. She looked like Anne Hathaway. She aged like 20 years. Well, she was already married to one black man, and I guess she saw this other slower black man and was like, I think that's it. Let me go ahead and get some of that D-Man. And that's what she was ready to ride, because she pretty much expressed her feelings to him through the typing, through the messaging. And he got excited. Apparently he asked her to kiss him. She did. And then he eventually got to the point where he asked for more, because he was curious about, and I guess she was curious about how it would work if they hooked up and whatnot. And I was like, whoa, okay, this, as I was walking around listening to this, I'm like, wait, am I hearing this right? Is she about to she was. She busted down for D-Man. So basically the guy who was special needs got in. He got some play, and apparently was getting it, and now they were falling in love. They were falling in love, and she already had an able-bodied husband back at home. I wonder how that man's sitting around thinking. That's what I was starting to think. Like, this dude who's at the house, I get their marriage was apparently on the fence and was on the fritz, but not to the point where you're going to be able to accept this reality. Well, anyway, they met with the family, and they could sense that the energy was off when they had this meeting and they sat down, and she broke the news like, do you want me to tell him? And the brother could already tell, like, oh, this is about to be really weird. So she shares the news that they've been banging and that they're now in love. Which, these meetings, when people sit this down and like, we're in love now, we're in love. I'd love to see how this goes. It just seems like a really awkward evening, which this was. So he went outside, he vomited, threw up everywhere, spewed his guts literally. And his mom was just sitting there confused, like, excuse me, what did you just say? Because in her mind, she's like, My son is slow. My son can't speak. He can't talk. He can't do anything without assistance from others. You just violated my son. You took advantage of him. He doesn't know what's going on. Now he's going to be so whipped. He doesn't understand what the world really means anymore. Because he does in his mind. Now it's like, I'm in love with her. Like, you can't have these crazy, triggering, traumatic moments. Unfortunately, him having sex is traumatic because that's not something he was ever really supposed to do or have in the first place. Now, in the way she was communicating with him, he was telling her, like, yes, he desires love. And apparently they went on these speaking tours and these speaking engagements because apparently he was getting really adept at communicating. Like I said, he was doing the whole Stephen Hawking. He was going out to communities with her and expressing how he was trying to progress in the world, how he was going to do things. And one of the things that he was very disappointed about was the fact that he wasn't going to ever receive love in this world. And she was down on it. She was down on the fact that he was like, I'm not going to be able to get that. She's like, no. You can get that from me. Even though that she already had an able-bodied husband, she knew she was already falling for this man's mind because she said he was brilliant. He was Rain Man. He was somebody that you couldn't really put into words. Y'all just didn't understand him the way she did. She got to work more intimately with him. She got results out of him that other people weren't able to get. And that's the part that got really confusing because it gets to the point when he said that he doesn't deserve love. That feels wrong. It feels wrong. It feels like everybody deserves love. It feels that way until everybody starts getting love. And when he got love, unfortunately, he could not stop beating his meat. He was just going full-blown orangutan on his ham. He was just saucing it up all the time. That's the trauma that they don't tell you about until later in the documentary. His mom was like, yo, he's got problems from this. So she's walking around thinking that he's actually going to be okay and that there's nothing wrong with this man. No. He's effed up psychologically. He can't stop doing it. Like, we're trying to go out in public and he's whacking it. We can't take him anywhere because it's diseased now. He already has one disease. Now he's literally whipped as a disease, which is crazy. To be that blown over to be that stuck, and he can't help it because he was slow. So obviously this thing went to trial. It went to court. And the craziest thing about this case is when it went to trial and went to court, this woman decided she was going to put the blame on the guy who rode the short bus. She said, he seduced me. Y'all don't understand how smart he is. And everybody's like, yo, he can't do. They realized what she was saying still didn't add up. It still didn't make sense. You're able. You cheat on your able-bodied husband with this individual who doesn't even really know his own name. Well, that's a lie. He knows his own name. But you've seen these individuals. They're the kids that were in class that you were wondering, like, are they okay when you were younger, when you didn't understand what happens to some kids who don't get a fair deck of cards for life. That's what he was. He was a kid literally in that chair. You know how in the yearbooks where you always got that one kid who had the wheelchair and they had the look? That was him. He was getting piped down from the teacher. Like, you hear from the kids who are able-bodied in class, sometimes they end up getting taken advantage of by the teacher because they be out there trying to rizz up the teacher and spit their game and all this stuff, yada yada, and all sorts of heinous things take place. Well, this was even worse. And the fact that she had the audacity to be like, he seduced me. She actually said he seduced her. That's the craziest thing that I heard about this whole thing, is the fact that she blamed him for what happened. And she was over here like, yo, he's a real man and y'all don't know him. I mean, it got really cartoonish. It was really weird. But she ended up getting ruled guilty. She was sentenced to 12 years in prison. Another 12-year concurrent with that sentence, with the possibility of parole. Now, the messed up thing is you were probably wondering, if you watched this documentary, how is she on this documentary if she got sentenced to prison? It's because she got out. Obviously, she got out. She only had to serve 2 years in there. Which, that's the part of this that's messed up, right? I don't know which part is wrong. I honestly think she truly believed everything she was talking about. I don't believe she was off in what she was thinking except for the logic behind it. Like, I can't get behind the logic, but I truly believe she believed and meant every word she said. She loved him, and she really thought he loved her, and vice versa. It brings up another question, sort of like I was saying earlier, doesn't everybody deserve love? I think everybody does deserve love, but not if it's actually going to be a triggering, traumatic event that you'll never be able to psychologically recover from. I don't know if they're ever going to be able to fix him. Like, I don't know if they're going to literally be able to stop him from beating his meat. And that is wild to think about. Like, there's a lot of people who have Tourette's and a lot of different disorders and a lot of crazy things, be yelling out in public, but to be just going around where it's skeet, 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 literally everywhere, all the time, every day. A scratch that he has to itch is the way his mama put it. He has to itch it. And thus, you got what you got. I believe she definitely took advantage of a slow person. I definitely think that she didn't realize that she was taking advantage of a slow person. I really think that she thought that he was brilliant because of the way they do their work. The way that these people are taught to do their profession is almost messed up and predatory, even from higher than that. Because the way you teach these individuals is basically to go out there and prey on their students, and it's not intentional. It just happens because you work so intimately with these people. I still just mind blown at the fact that this man was getting laid. I still can't get over that. I mean, you got people, you got dudes over here crashing out because they can't get coochie over here on Tinder, but you got homie over here, literally like Stephen Hawking, without the money, getting booty. It was just one of the craziest documentaries I ever listened to. I never heard anything like that. Especially Slow Kid, unfortunately, got taken advantage of by this woman who thought they were really in love, and she was all about it. And all I could think about was during this investigation that when they raided her home, her husband was still there. She still hadn't broke the news to the dude, and I bet this brother was confused. Like, what are y'all doing here? And they're like, hey, you might want to sit down for a second. We have something to tell you. And when somebody tells you that, you already know the next words are going to be the most effed up you've ever heard. And I can only imagine how he took that news. Like, I wonder if they communicated afterwards. Like, would he want to? Like, that's what I got cheated on for? Like, if that's what you cheated on me for, I really feel like I need to do some internal thinking. But it's also so effed up that I'm thinking, you're just effed up. But if you're that effed up, then I'm crazy because I married you. I literally got down on one knee and I proposed to a person who wanted to bang a broke Stephen Hawking. A Stephen Hawking that couldn't even buy her a pack of ramen. Insane. I don't know. You should check it out. Tell Them You Love Me on Netflix. Crazy documentary. Anyway, see you soon. Just wanted to share that. It's just wild.